Resident Evil 8 review. Resident Evil 8 is a great game. Even though it's not as good as 7 in my opinion, it's still a roller coaster and it's great. Let's talk about the story. The story is Chris Redfield kills Mia and you wake up in a village. You're trying to find your daughter Rose, and the story has a lot of twists and turns and interesting things that I wish were fleshed out a bit more though. Also, this game is in the vein of Resident Evil 4 instead of RE7. In my opinion, RE7 is the best Resident Evil game, so at me at the comments below. And this game goes for more over-the-top scares instead of grounded horror take like in RE7 was more grounded, RE4 was more, it was less grounded, I guess you could say. The game definitely succeeds at what it's trying to be, but this might be disappointing to people who like RE7. Yeah. This game also has a lot of ties to other Resident Evil games, so the fans can go crazy on the theories and stuff like that on what happens in the story. The game's pacing is overall pretty good and only slows down at a couple parts, but that's about it. Overall, it's a roller coaster of surprises and turns. Also, the main character Ethan, in my opinion, is pretty bland. I never really cared too much about him himself, besides his hands for getting chopped off and his fingers, him losing his fingers and stuff like that. He never had a real personality like Leon or Claire Redfield or something like that in every other Resident Evil game. Also, the villains are not as good as RE7. I don't think they're bad at all. I like Heisenberg a lot, and Tall Vampire Lady's pretty cool. But what you do is you progress normally, killing all the henchmen of Mother Miranda. Mother Miranda is the main villain, by the way. The henchmen are like Heisenberg, Tall Vampire Lady, and stuff like that. I brought this up because with all the side villains equals more bosses, which all of them are great, but not all of their characters are super fleshed out and great. Also, the marketing showed mainly the Tall Vampire Lady a lot, but minor spoilers here. Okay, she is not the main villain or in the entire game. The game's story still held me through to the end, or till the end, and I always wanted to find out what was happening or what is gonna happen and stuff like that. Now onto the gameplay. The gameplay is standard Resident Evil, which isn't bad at all because I love Resident Evil. All the puzzles, well, not all super challenging and stuff, but they're always fun. I felt the exploration was pretty rewarding and always fun and interesting. This game takes blends from Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 2, and a little bit from Resident Evil 7. The inventory system is straight out of Resident Evil 4, and it feels very good trying to fit everything in your inventory. Also, the Tall Vampire Lady chases you like Mr. X from Resident Evil 2. It never felt annoying when she was chasing me, but it was honestly pretty easy to run away. But it was still really scary because the music and the atmosphere just makes you feel like something a little small insignificant thing getting chased by a bigger threat. The atmosphere is also really amazing. You can really feel like you're there in the castle or the village or wherever you are in the game. The music and wariness of what you're doing and stuff always puts you on your toes at all times, basically. Besides, at the end of the game, when you have full auto guns, it doesn't feel as scary and atmospheric and stuff like that, because you feel really powerful and stuff, which isn't really a bad thing, but just saying for the people who are probably going to complain in the comments or whatever. Also, the game is more creepy in other parts instead of the whole game. In RE7, the consistency of the scariness and creepiness was better, but in RE8 it wasn't. Some parts were more scary than others. It lost some consistency in the game. By the end of the game, it gets notably less creepy and stuff like that, which I think fans of Resident Evil 4 will like because that game wasn't non-stop horror and creepiness like RE7. But the problem is in RE is it doesn't stick to one thing. Resident Evil 7 stuck to horror, Resident Evil 4 stuck to more over the top. Resident Evil 8 tries to blend both and succeeds, besides at the end of the game, where it doesn't succeed on mixing both those types of games. Also, there is a merchant called the Duke, kind of like RE4 merchant. You can sell stuff, buy stuff, and upgrade your weapons. I never felt like I couldn't get money. I always felt like I was evolving instead of devolving. And the levels are also much bigger, and you can tackle things in whatever order, for the most part. It's not open world or anything, okay? It's like open level. Some parts you have to do in order, but in the village, you can do some tasks before other tasks. Also, the enemy variety is great. I never felt bored. I always felt like seeing new enemies were really cool. The boss variety is also great. The bosses were not super hard. I was always having fun trying to kill them. The final thing is enemies, they move way more than older Resident Evil games. The enemies moved slow in like Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 2, and stuff like that, but in Resident Evil 8, they moved way faster. Instead of aiming for the head, like in older Resident Evil games, you are forced to shoot their bodies. On the other hand, you do get more ammo, so it's kind of fine. It's kind of fine then. Now onto Mercenaries mode. Mercenaries mode is great. I didn't beat this mode. Like, I played it, but I didn't beat it. But it's fun. You fight waves of enemies and upgrade your guns and stuff like that the more rounds you go. Now onto performance. The game runs well at 45 FPS with ray tracing and 60 FPS without ray tracing. And ray tracing in this game won't blow you away, but it does look really good indoors. Also, I played this on PS5, so I don't know how every other platform runs, but on PS5 it runs really well. Now onto value. The value is good. You get the main story, which I took 9 hours to beat. You get Mercenaries mode, which adds a couple of hours, and you can unlock extra weapons, concept art, excuse me, my bad, cheat codes, and more in the content shop. You know, there is New Game Plus, collectibles all around the map. I say the game is worth it just for the main story and Mercenaries mode alone. I think the value is good, and if you like replaying games, it's even better. You know, there's New Game Plus and stuff like that. Also, the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers are really, really, really good in this game. They're like on par with Call of Duty Cold War haptics and triggers. You know, it's on another level on how they're able to do it. Now onto the final verdict. I love Resident Evil, and I love Resident Evil 8. I think it will appeal more towards people who like Resident Evil 7, but if you like if you like Resident Evil 4, it'll appeal more towards you. But if you do like Resident Evil 7, still give it a try, because I still think you'll like it, especially before the end when it's more horror type of style, but you know, like that. But if you do like Resident Evil 4, you'll absolutely love it, because all the stuff that they take out of that game, like the merchant, the inventory and stuff like that. I think this game is really good and it's a great entry in the Resident Evil franchise, and I give it an 8.3 out of 10.